anyway, down below you have the terminal. So terminal is basically an interface for you that allows you to control your operating system. Now, Linux terminal is very powerful. We will be using it extensively. You will need to familiarize yourselves with it. I will familiarize you with it. I will teach you how to use it. Uh, to some people, it might seem a bit difficult or a bit tricky at first sight. You know, there are a lot of commands to type in, how to memorize them all, what to use where, and so on and so forth. But believe me, there is a certain logic to it, and once you figure it out, everything just flies. I know by heart about 30% of possible commands out there regarding Linux terminals, and the rest I simply figure out with -h or --help. The system pretty much tells you everything you need to know. It helps you out to a great extent, and you are able to figure out a lot of things from just understanding the basic logic, how it works, and so on. Now there will always, of course, be arguments. I don't know, there'll be people saying, well, why would you use terminals? Why wouldn't you just use GUI tools or something like that? The simple answer is because they are not as nearly as powerful as the terminal tools are. Plus, terminal tools have far less dependencies, and most of the hacking tools are basically designed for terminals. They don't have GUIs. A lot of them do have them these days, but I might go over them briefly at a certain point of time, because the GUI interfaces are not that relevant. When you figure it out how to do it on the terminal, you will automatically, by default, know how to do it with the graphical user interface for that particular program. Anyway, down below you have firewalls. Now, firewall in Linux is configured through IP table commands. You keep on passing arguments and configuring these firewalls. And this is one of the main reasons why you should not be using any distribution of Windows for this particular tutorial, to follow this tutorial. You will need to install as I said previously, you will need to install either a Linux virtual machine or create a dual boot or something of a kind. I will of course show how to do this and demonstrate it in great detail. But the firewalls are one of the main reasons why we can't use Windows for these sort of purposes. Linux firewall is open source, and it has ridiculous amount of options. A ridiculous amount. I'm not kidding here. You can do with it pretty much whatever you want. You can you can close open ports, forward connections via ports or via IP addresses. You can just forbid certain protocols on certain ports, or forbid certain protocols for certain IP addresses, do all manner of forwarding and redirection, and so on and so forth. This is all available for free with a Linux firewall. Whilst in Windows you will have some of these options, but most of them you won't, unless you, for example, buy a certain package or something like that, which is not something that we really want to do here. We want to keep this budget friendly, and we want to have a powerful firewall which can do pretty much whatever we want it to do. Now there'll be two ways of configuring this firewall, and if you are afraid of messing it up, don't worry about it, because most of the configurations that we will do will be short-lived configurations, so to say, primarily because all the configurations made to the firewall from IP tables command, unless specified otherwise, will be temporary, and they will hold until the next system reset. There is a way to circumvent this, of course, and to configure the firewall rules in the configuration file directly, and thereby making the changes permanent, which is also one of the ways of doing it, but I don't generally prefer it. I prefer to have a script somewhere which you can run at any time, and it will configure your firewall by default. This is primarily because you won't have your tool set on a USB stick or somewhere online or something of a kind, and you have these quick scripts which you generate, and then they perform these tasks for you in an automated fashion. It's really simple. I will show you how to make these scripts. You do not necessarily need some advanced programming knowledge or anything of a kind. Basically, what these scripts are a list of Linux terminal commands, which we will do anyway. So basically, the script would consist out of a list of those commands, and then you just change the mod of the script to be an executable file, run it, and all those commands are passed to the system, and those tasks are finished in an automated fashion by default. Anyway, one of the final things that I wish to address here are reverse shells. So there are hundreds, if not thousands, of reverse shells out there that you can use. I will pick a few that we will use depending on the framework, depending on the environment, of course, that we want to infect. But in essence, what reverse shells are, as the name itself says, you have a program with which you infect another device, and then that program opens up a reverse connection from that device back to you. So you can keep on passing commands, you can keep on controlling the system even though you are nowhere near it. There are different types, of course, today with routers and so on and so forth. With such firewalls, you do need to do a lot of extra configuration, and there are problems that need to be solved and addressed. You will see how when you are trying to break into a single computer, sometimes you need to break into the router first. Usually, you need to break into the router first, unless you're performing these phishing sort of attacks, or there's a web server or something of a kind running in the background. But attacking a private device, a private computer, which is usually what people do as preludes to bigger hacks because they want to extract some sort of information or something of a kind from, let's say, a company's employee that's a network administrator or somebody like that, one of the basic vectors would be to attack a home router, change the DNS settings there, and try to steal credentials in such a way, or put the computer in the DMZ of the router, the militarized zone, so that the router is no longer effective for that device. Rather, instead, it just forwards all traffic to that device regardless. So that can be; those are some of the types of attacks that you can do. But reverse shells will depend on the choice of the environment that you are trying to infect, and will depend on the choice of your attack route as well. In any case, I hope that you got some basic introduction to these terms. I again repeat, if you didn't figure it out all immediately, don't worry about it. We will do all of this in great details with a lot of examples, and you will understand it. It's not complicated. Do not allow fear to dissuade or stop you. Just keep on going in spite of it, and if you can just stick in till the end of this course, I guarantee it to you, you will understand it. With just a bit of focus and a bit of curiosity, you will be able to obtain the necessary skills needed in order to become a pen tester or an ethical hacker. I bid you all farewell, and I hope to see you in the next tutorial.
Thank you for watching the beginning of this